This is DevOps in Agile Way podcast.
Hello everyone, another milestone achieved. Not mine, to be clear. OpenTofu is now globally available, is stable, production ready. The stable release was just released. I'd like to talk a little bit about this now. I know that previously I said that probably this episode will be about DORA metrics, but I believe this is too important to not mention OpenTofu here. I will not tell you about the history of OpenTofu, OpenTF on the beginning, why we are here, why this happened. This was said a couple of times, and you can find everything about this on the manifesto and the OpenTofu site, so opentofu.org. I strongly encourage you to go there and read the manifesto, read the reasons, read everything what brought OpenTofu to life. Important is also to add that OpenTofu is open source and it is under Linux Foundation umbrella. This means that the steering committee, the people who are behind OpenTofu, cannot just change the license or whatever because it's kind of owned already by Linux Foundation. And Linux Foundation is one of the biggest foundations there. And if you do not believe in open source or Linux Foundation or things like that, couple of names, okay? Argo CD. If you use Kubernetes, probably you use Argo CD. It is under one of the foundations under Linux Foundation, CNCF. If this is not enough, Jenkins, another one. I know what we think about Jenkins, but yeah, it is also under, this time, CD Foundation, Continuous Delivery Foundation. Also part of Linux Foundation. Not enough still? Okay, Kubernetes itself. It's also open source project under CNCF, under Linux Foundation. It was donated by Google some time ago. Linux kernel is also part of this. If you do not believe in it, check your phone, check your TV set, check your tablet, check your fridge. Is there Android? Probably, right? What it means? You already know. So being under this umbrella is very, very important for the project. And it was very important from the day, from day zero, really. And why I know this, and I can say this with like 100% of confidence, because I am not very important, not, somewhere in the last row of this boat, but I am in this boat, okay? I am in this boat of OpenTofu, and that is why I know how important it was for us to be under Linux Foundation. So now we are in the situation where we can say that OpenTofu is production ready. This means that you can start migrating your professional infrastructure as code to OpenTofu. And it's quite important moment for the project because it took like 4 months from August to January. During this time, a lot of things was done for Tofu because the binary which we use is called Tofu. OpenTofu is the project. And not only to this, because we also have our own registry, which also is open source, of course. So things around OpenTofu or Tofu itself are also done by the group. What are in the newest release, in this stable release? So of course, everything what we had before, right? So everything what was forked from Terraform. The group matured the testing module, the testing feature. The group updated the way how S3 backend works. So I'm sorry for those guys who are not using AWS, but still AWS is the most popular use case for Tofu and for this infrastructure called as code tools. So S3 is a backend in Amazon cloud to store your state files. We also did some bug fixes, some performance improvements, some little this and that. And also we have our new registry. And this is very, very important. The registry works a little bit differently than it works in the previous version, but still it does the same thing. It serves the providers with the modules, mostly providers to Tofu. Important is you can think, okay, this is open source, very young project. So can I be sure that this is really stable and this is not something what will be closed in like 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year or something like that? Of course, we don't know what future will bring, but it works in the same for everyone. And this is not the point. The point is that behind OpenTofu, we have a few organizations who are collaborating very closely. We also have people who are working on OpenTofu only. They are solely focused on this. Another aspect of this, we are under Linux Foundation. For them, this is also very important to keep it stable. As you maybe remember how Linux Foundation announced OpenTofu as a project under Linux Foundation, it was a huge announcement. They are really strongly, let's say, focused on this to keep this project running and growing. So this is very important as well. Now, how you can start work with OpenTofu? Well, it's very, very simple. So far, OpenTofu is a drop-in replacement for Terraform. This means that you can install Tofu, do Tofu init in your project previously run with Terraform, and start using Tofu instead of Terraform. That easy it is. Of course, in the future, there is no doubt, and I will not lie and I will not say anything differently. Those two projects, like Terraform and OpenTofu, they will go their own ways. There will be differences, more and more and more. That's obvious. This is how it works, really. So there are two separate projects, two separate group of people who are working on those projects. It is impossible to keep it the same because there is no reason then to have two projects, right? Anyway, as I said, this is as easy as just changing the binary you are using today. How to install OpenTofu? Well, it's very simple. You go into GitHub to the github.com opentofu/opentofu to the releases and you download the package for your system. If you don't want to do it this way, we already have packages for the most popular Linux distributions. We are already in some systems/repositories/package managers like Brew. So if you are using macOS, you can just go into terminal, just type brew install OpenTofu, and it's done. You have it. If you are using containers, that's perfect. Alpine some time ago announced that they will support OpenTofu. So you can install OpenTofu also on Alpine very easily. More will come for sure. So more different package managers, packages themselves will come. That's for sure. What is the future of OpenTofu? Well, it's kind of bright future. There is a really, really dedicated team. They really want to create something great, and they are doing it already. So again, I'm totally optimistic about OpenTofu and the growth of OpenTofu and the adoption of OpenTofu. Even if those differences between Terraform and Tofu will grow, because they will, as I said before, still, that's the trigger for growth, really, and for innovation. So that's great. That is great that we have more than one tool which we can use for infrastructure as code. What I also can announce, what was announced earlier and by bigger people than me, but I can announce it here on this podcast. So during the KubeCon and Cloud Native Con in Europe, in Paris, this will happen in March from 19th to 22nd. During this event, there are, during all KubeCons, really, there are co-located events as well. During the event in Paris, there will be co-located event called OpenTofu Day. That is also great news for everyone who wants to learn a little bit more about OpenTofu, see it in action, talk with people who are behind this project. I really encourage you to, if you will be at KubeCon, go to OpenTofu Day, show your support, say hello. Maybe, who knows, maybe I'll be there as well. Who knows? There will be great presentations, great panel discussions for sure. And as I said, opportunity to talk with people who are behind this project. So what can be better for anyone who is interested in OpenTofu than be there? So concluding, OpenTofu is growing. OpenTofu become stable. OpenTofu will grow in the future. And if you think about entering the infrastructure as code world, maybe this is a good moment to think about OpenTofu instead of other technologies. And if you are already there and you are using Terraform, maybe it's not a bad idea to think about migration to OpenTofu. There will be some announcements done by the company I work for, Spacelift, about OpenTofu for sure. And I also encourage you to look on Spacelift socials. And that's it for this episode. I'm really excited to be part of this journey. I'm really excited to see how the project grows. This is the story to tell in some, let's say, not official parts of the conferences and things like that. And I love this story behind OpenTofu. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Have a nice night, whatever. And see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DevOps in Agile Way podcast with your host, Pavel Pivosh. Subscribe, comment, and do not forget to check our next episodes. Stay tuned. Stay safe. Stay curious.